The moment I stepped into the hallway, my heart was hammering like a drum in a war zone. Every shadow, every subtle movement made my chest tighten as the tension in the air crackled, thick and electric. I could see them, 3 men, all sharp suits and sharper grins, cornering my auntie in her own living room. Their smirks were predatory, a cruel anticipation dancing in their eyes as if they had already won. "You're going to agree, Janet," one of them sneered, leaning forward just enough to make the threat tangible. "It's better for everyone if you just say yes." Her lips curved in the faintest of smiles, almost imperceptible, yet it was enough to spark a ripple of whispered laughter from them. Their amusement, cruel and mocking, filled the room, bouncing off the walls as a public humiliation I could feel pressing against my chest. The scent of expensive perfume mixed with the raw tang of fear. It was everywhere. Mine, theirs, hers. It clung to the air like smoke before a fire. One of them, taller than the rest, stepped closer, voice low, dripping with menace. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he threatened, eyes narrowing, trying to dominate her with his presence alone. But Aunty, my auntie, met his gaze steadily, her silence sharper than any words. I watched them falter ever so slightly, their confidence wavering under the weight of her composure. My own panic twisted inside me, battling with awe, because in that moment I realized she was unshakable. There was a tremor in her hand, subtle, almost imperceptible, unnoticed by them. Yet I saw it, a silent hint that beneath her calm, a plan was already in motion. The confrontation ended almost anticlimactically. They left smirking, assuming victory, certain she would cave. I followed them with my gaze until the front door shut, my blood boiling with impotent fury. I trailed behind her into the kitchen, noting the way her movements were deliberate, almost ritualistic, every gesture precise and controlled. She glanced at me, soft reassurance in her tone, but her eyes told a different story, a storm of quiet fury and relentless calculation. On the counter, partially hidden under a stack of papers, were letters, documents, evidence she had collected quietly over weeks, months perhaps. The seeds of her revenge were already planted, waiting for the perfect moment to blossom. I could feel it in the air. This was far from over. And in that quiet, charged moment, I understood that the fear they tried to wield against her was about to become their own undoing. I remember sitting in the quiet of the kitchen, watching Aunty move with that same precise calm, and my mind drifted back through the years, through the battles she had fought silently, the ones no one else noticed. She had endured manipulation and coercion from people who thought fear could bend her will. The scars weren't visible, but I could feel their weight in every deliberate movement she made. Family betrayals, broken promises, whispered lies that left wounds invisible to outsiders. All of it had forged her resilience. I thought of her early adulthood, a time when people underestimated her, humiliated her publicly, and forced her into compromises that should have broken someone else. Yet she carried each bruising experience quietly, masking pain behind a smile that was sharper than any weapon. Even as a child, I overheard conversations she wasn't meant to hear, fragments that revealed her quiet strength, a strength that simmered beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment. Mentors and friends who doubted her, colleagues who underestimated her cunning, all of them inadvertently taught her lessons in vigilance and patience. Her principle was simple but ironclad: never succumb to fear, no matter the stakes. I observed the small routines she carried out daily, the way she organized papers, the meticulous way she handled correspondence. Even the smallest gestures carried strategy. Every move calculated, every habit a piece of preparation I was only beginning to understand. I felt both guilt and admiration, knowing how much she had endured alone, and yet awe at the psychological armor she had built over decades. Professional betrayals, subtle humiliations, calculated power plays, they had hardened her approach to threats. And yet, the contrast between her public composure and the private fury I glimpsed now was staggering. I made a silent vow to stand with her, to witness and support the reckoning she had been preparing for all these years. This backstory, the hidden battles, the scars, the lessons learned in silence, set the foundation for what was coming. Every act of defiance, every calculated step in the days ahead would be a testament to her resilience, a carefully orchestrated revenge that no one would see coming. From the moment the confrontation ended, Aunty moved with purpose I had never seen before. She began tracing the network of people who had tried to intimidate her, mapping connections like a spider weaving its web. Every phone call she intercepted, every suspicious email she traced, was executed with a precision that was almost surgical, coldly efficient, and utterly unyielding. I watched, silently awed, as she turned the ordinary around her into instruments of observation. A coffee cup on the table, a vase in the corner, even the reflection in the living room mirror became part of her surveillance. Her strategy was no longer abstract. It was tangible, unfolding before my eyes. Meanwhile, the antagonists grew bolder, sending veiled threats, each one unaware that their every move was being watched, cataloged, and stored. The tension in the house thickened like storm clouds rolling in, and I could feel it in my chest, a mixture of dread and anticipation. This was no longer just defense. This was strategy, a meticulously planned counterattack. One night, a confrontation unfolded outside our home. Shadows danced over our faces, long and sinister under the streetlights, heightening the suspense. Aunty remained unnervingly calm, her voice measured, her posture controlled, and I could see it make them overconfident. Their arrogance began to crack, subtle fractures appearing that would later be exploited. We discovered hidden alliances among the antagonists, power dynamics shifting silently, as if revealing themselves only to us. Psychological warfare crept in like smoke, tiny seeds of doubt planted in their minds while they remained oblivious to our watchful eyes. I documented every threat, every arrogance-laden gesture, every careless overreach, feeding the plan that was slowly taking shape. She turned to me one evening, eyes steady, voice calm. "Strike when the mask slips," she said. Those words were more than an instruction. They were a philosophy, a moral code that had guided her life. I absorbed them, knowing that each moment of fear, each adrenaline spike, each anticipation-filled breath was part of a larger game. Every small victory, every subtle correction of their overconfidence built her confidence, and mine alongside hers. Each step was a calculated chess move, deliberate, precise, and inexorably moving toward a reckoning that no one, not even them, could escape. The phone rang late at night, slicing through the tense silence of the house. When Aunty answered, her expression shifted imperceptibly, a flicker of something sharp and triumphant passing across her face. The voice on the other end revealed betrayal, deep fissures within their ranks that no one outside could see. This was our leverage, raw and undeniable. In the shadows of her preparation, Auntie's hidden allies began to emerge. Lawyers with precise knowledge, insiders who knew the system's weaknesses, and even former victims of the same group, people who had once suffered as she had, now quietly aligned with her. Suddenly, the balance of power shifted, subtle at first, then undeniably irrevocable. The antagonists, confident mere moments ago, began to feel the tremor of their own undoing. I stood behind her, my awe tangled with nervousness, watching the rapid escalation unfold like a storm. She laid out a carefully prepared document trail, each page a scalpel ready to dissect their public image, each fact chosen to maximize exposure and shame. As she explained the depth of their greed, their corruption, the scope of what they had done, I could feel the emotional intensity radiating from her, pure, calculated fire. Later, in a private confrontation with one of the antagonists, she exposed secrets they thought were buried forever. I watched as panic flickered in his eyes, rapid and shallow breaths betraying the cracks in his confidence. Her psychological mastery was mesmerizing, calm, cold, precise, never rushed, never flinching, always 3 steps ahead. Evidence was quietly moved into place, each item positioned for maximum impact, invisible to everyone else but crucial to the final act. The battlefield was reshaped, the tension built, anticipation tightening in my chest like a coiled spring. Her gestures were subtle, controlled fury radiating from every movement. I could feel the electricity of imminent justice crackling through the room. This was the turning point. The moment fear was replaced entirely by calculated preparation. Every instinct sharpened, every plan aligned. The stage was set, the players unwittingly in position, and I realized nothing could stop her now. No more intimidation, no more threats, only the relentless precision of a woman ready to claim the justice she had been denied for too long. The night of the reveal arrived like a storm ready to break. Aunty had chosen the corporate gala perfectly. High profile, crowded, every eye fixed on her, yet unaware of what was about to unfold. As the lights shifted, she began the reveal, each piece of evidence placed with meticulous timing, calculated to strike at the heart of their arrogance. I watched as the antagonists' confident facades began to crumble. Whispers swelled into audible gasps as emails, documents, and hidden messages were laid bare. Every word she spoke was calm, precise, each sentence a dagger of humiliation delivered in perfect measure. "You thought fear could bend me," she said, voice steady, eyes scanning the room. "But the truth bends nothing. It breaks you." Legal threats materialized seamlessly alongside the public exposure. Letters were served, documents signed, every formality executed with cold efficiency. The sense of finality was palpable, and I could feel the tension in the room crackling like electricity. Emotional confrontations erupted around her, masked in polite tones but dripping with the retribution she had long withheld. I witnessed stunned silence descend, fractured by chaos as public perception pivoted sharply against them. Private messages, confessions, and betrayals were read aloud, exposing personal deceptions in a way that left no room for denial or excuse. Timing was everything. Every revelation landed precisely when it would hurt most, shattering their composure. They scrambled, attempting defensive maneuvers, but Auntie's preparation had accounted for every angle, neutralizing every attempt to regain control. I felt a surge of awe, fear, and cathartic satisfaction all at once as their power slipped through their fingers. Minor allies quietly stepped forward, validating her position, amplifying her authority. The emotional intensity peaked with their silent defeat, shame radiating in every glance and movement. Yet through it all, Aunty remained composed, serene, a storm contained, the ultimate display of power. As the crowd began to disperse, the tension slowly released, leaving a lingering sense of poetic justice hanging in the air. I realized then that fear had been temporary, arrogance punished, and calculated vengeance achieved with breathtaking precision. The house finally fell silent, the storm of chaos outside now a distant echo. I watched Aunty exhale, a slow, measured release, the tension in her shoulders melting into relief and triumph. Every line in her face softened, yet her eyes held the sharp gleam of someone who had won a long and hard-fought battle. How? Conversations with her allies confirmed what I had already sensed. The consequences for the antagonists were irreversible. Careers in ruins, social circles fractured, reputations obliterated. I felt pride swelling inside me, respect for her meticulous orchestration, and a personal growth I hadn't anticipated from witnessing justice unfold so completely. My own fear transformed into something new, empowerment. Every step she had taken, every decision made in silence had become a lesson I could carry. I watched as financial and legal restitution began to take shape, completing the arc of retribution in a way that was precise, undeniable, and deeply satisfying. I recorded subtle moments of her private satisfaction, tiny smiles that spoke volumes of hidden victory, the quiet confidence of someone who had endured, planned, and executed perfectly. Our bond deepened without words, a silent acknowledgement of shared triumph, trust, and respect. Even minor loose ends were addressed, apologies received, betrayals accounted for, every lingering shadow of doubt cleared. Emotional catharsis settled over us, adrenaline slowly replaced by calm confidence. Auntie reflected quietly on the lessons this journey had reinforced: strength, patience, and resilience. I absorbed them too, understanding that fear is temporary, but preparation, vigilance, and strategic resolve are power itself. The home regained its serenity, a symbolic reclaiming of space and authority. In that quiet, I realized the story was complete. Not just revenge served, but justice realized, and a legacy of strength left behind for anyone who dared to stand with her. Watching her face them, I understood the meaning of true courage. Every moment I had witnessed, the threats, the manipulations, the careful unraveling of their arrogance, crystallized into a single, undeniable truth. Courage is measured not in noise, but in the quiet, calculated resolve to never yield. Looking back over the entire arc, I see her calm, precise power in every detail. The intercepted calls, the documented betrayals, the perfectly timed exposures, the tension in the air, the fear that clung to every interaction, and the eventual triumph all linger like a charged current through my memory. I can still feel the scent of the rooms, the shiver of adrenaline, the electric thrill of anticipation, and the deep satisfaction as each step of justice fell into place. Her actions wove subtle lessons of preparation, courage, loyalty, and resilience into every decision she made, lessons I carry with me now. Justice did not announce itself with loud proclamations. It came with precision, a surgical strike to those who underestimated her. Sometimes the strongest power is silent, invisible, yet devastatingly effective. If you ever doubted what a strong mind can do, remember this story. Stand firm against intimidation, protect your boundaries, and never underestimate the quiet ones. Sometimes the quietest are the most dangerous when pushed too far. I close this reflection with awe and gratitude, feeling the lingering tension of what was endured and overcome. For those watching, subscribe to see more stories of hidden strength, meticulous planning, and justice executed without compromise. The house is calm now, space reclaimed, power shifted. Fear was temporary, but resilience, patience, and strategic resolve endure forever.